On today's episode of the Locked On NHL podcast, so Dan Bylsma is out. Ron Francis gets promoted.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of the Locked On NHL podcast, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Also, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked On NHL, Coach Firing Madness, as JD and I go through the list of new openings, including a bombshell full-scale restructuring in Seattle. We'll also talk about the vacancy for the Vancouver Canucks, depending on if Rick Tocchet wants to come back or not. And then we'll take a look at which spots are the most desirable for the new free agent or soon-to-be free agent head coaches as well. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, joined by JD Young of Locked On Sharks. And no, despite the flurry of moves, both of us still here.
Survived.
There's no Black Monday for us, but a lot of coaches throughout the league. Holy cow! But there's one that just came completely out of nowhere because not only did it involve a coach being let go, it involved a new GM, a new president, and it was a coach that was not even on the job for a year.
Yep.
Enter the Seattle Kraken, who got rid of Dan Bylsma. They have retained Jessica Campbell, but the rest of the staff is history. Ron Francis is now the president of hockey operations, and his job is being taken over by the assistant GM, Dan Botterill. This strikes me as a mess. And it's funny because rewind a year, Dave Haxtell was let go because there was just this huge undercurrent of players that did not want to play for him anymore. They basically said it's him or us. So you bring in Dan Bylsma. Sounds like there are some rumblings that it is the same thing going on in Seattle again. But I'm going to be real blunt here, JD. Dan Bylsma did not put the roster together. Dave Haxtell did not put the roster together.
Nope.
And Ron Francis gets to step away from the decision-making part of the job, gets a better title, less responsibility, more pay. So he gets to wash his hands.
Somebody else clean up my mess, baby.
He wash his hands and gets to go to a spot where he can watch with the owner. And Dan Bylsma now is looking for a job, not even a year after finding the Kraken.
Yeah, and it's not like Dan Bylsma. He was with the organization, right? He was coaching their AHL team, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Last time I checked, they went to the Calder Cup Finals twice in a row. Seems like he was good enough to do that. And it's, you have a fair amount of the same kind of players coming up. This whole thing's a mess. And I know the Kraken underperformed this season, and, they were seventh in the division. But what was the expectations for this team? I think most people expected this team to be one of the worst teams, especially in the Pacific. And they were, because this roster is just not good right now. Matty Beniers, I like Matty Beniers, but I think since his rookie season, he hasn't really kind of taken that next jump that you would kind of expect from a guy like that. I think Shane Wright had a quiet but good first full season in the NHL. But other than that, this roster is just still it's still just a mismatch of dudes right now. And I don't understand the direction of this team and the franchise. And getting put on the coach's feet for a mismatched squad that the organization just doesn't know what they want to be right now.
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to be a playoff team, or are you trying to build this thing up slowly? Because right now you're neither.
And like the moves that Ron Francis have made are the singular reason that this team is where it is. You shell out the big bucks to go get Philip Grubauer, and that has not worked out. You shell out huge amounts of money to Chandler Stevenson and Brandon Montour. And Montour, he as an offensive defenseman, I mean, he had 18 goals, so that's great. He was a minus 2. Chandler Stevenson played in 78 games, so I guess that's great. But and you've got the Matty Beniers extension, and Beniers, you look at his numbers, 20 goals, 40 points in 82 games, which was a step above what he did last year. But is he a $7 million a year type player? Like, it's this roster just reeks, frankly, of Ron Francis ever since the beginning. Because let's not forget, Ron Francis is the one who put this whole thing together back in the expansion draft. And if you will recall, I certainly was doing it. There were plenty of questions and plenty of head scratching as to how that initial roster was put together.
Yeah. Them making the playoffs in year 2 might have been the worst thing for the franchise.
100%.
Because it rushed everything, right? Like, this wasn't Vegas where, yes, you made some wheeling and dealing and you got actually like good players and you were able to take advantage of GMs who were scared to death, right? And you took advantage of those like the Vegas Golden Knights did. And they made shrewd moves, and they've been a very good team since, right? And they're a very aggressive team. Screw those picks. We're going to just keep going for it until the wheels fall off this thing. You got career years out of everybody. Your second year, you had a bunch of depth scoring. You made the playoffs. You had a good run in the playoffs. And then you thought, we can keep building off this. And they haven't been able to. And this is the creamiest of creamy middle teams that just has no direction right now. And I think that's the frustrating part, because you have all the you have a beautiful arena. You have like a lot of fan support in Seattle. This could have gone, much, much different. And if they were maybe slower and more cautious and more looking towards that sustained success, something I preach on the Locked On Sharks, right? You don't want to be that flash in the pan team. You want to have sustained success. And they tried to cash in on that, and it has blown up in their face. And Ron Francis, again, he's the one who, what's the old Bill Parcells saying, right? He's the one out getting the groceries and cooking the meal here, and he's getting the groceries and then having somebody else cook the meal, and he's complaining that the meal isn't good enough.
Yeah, that's such a good comparison. But to go back to the initial decision to bring in Bylsma, a coach who has won a Stanley Cup before, so I can see the appeal, because he has shown, and especially with what he's done with Coachella Valley, like, he's shown that he's capable of building a culture and putting a winning pedigree together. My biggest question is, if you're going to sour on this 1 year in, why even promote him in the first place? Like, if you're going to get so sour on the direction, and if there's stuff that happened behind the scenes, like if the players soured on him like they soured on Dave Hackstall, that again is a roster construction issue, which is not something that ultimately falls on at the hands of the coach. Yeah. Because if it is another coach that this roster soured on and didn't want to play for, that's an even bigger issue, because that then is that these players feel like they can pick who they want to have come in. And then you've got the players kind of running the show and covering a team that had that happen. Not great whatsoever. So
not great, Bob.
My biggest thing is like, if you're not going to allow Bylsma the opportunity to put this together, why bring him here in the first place?
Yeah, it's a fair question, dog. Fair question. Because you had a very successful Coachella Valley team. And yes, I know that Coachella Valley team had a lot of veteran type of players on their runs, which is that's fine, especially with a newer team. You're not going to have a prospect pool deep enough, I think, to kind of warrant running like a younger AHL team. But just the direction of this team, man, like, you just like look at the roster, right? It's like you either have guys who are past their prime, or you have guys who are nowhere near kind of entering their prime. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, not including, or 8 guys, including Grubauer, who are over the age of 30. Like that's okay if you're trying to win a cup, but like, why? Like, again, you're investing all this money on these veteran players, and these are the results that you're getting from it. So, and yeah, that I think this does 100% comes down to team building, and it seems like it's going to be a long way until the Kraken kind of figure out. Just ask yourself, like, what are you trying to be? Just what are you trying to be right now?
Because you gotta, like, you would think that now that this has happened, and especially if we find out that it was the players that said, well, we don't want to play for Bylsma, you have to walk the plank with this roster. Forgive the pun, but you gotta jump into the depths and peel this thing back. This is not going to be easy going forward. This is not, you can't retool this because there just are too many pieces on this roster that are not, they're trying to play spots that they just are not those types of players. So you have to do some really, really tough decision making on this roster, which is not a 1-year process.
No. Good luck.
Well, we'll keep tabs on it, of course, but also make sure to follow along with Locked On Kraken as well. Erica will keep you in the loop. I know from the sounds of it, I was listening to Locked On Kraken before we recorded, just for some intel. I like to do that. If there's a big story that we're going to cover, take a listen to the host that covers the team to get some more of an inside scoop. It sounds like there's going to be a media availability later today with Ron Francis. So make sure to check out Locked On Kraken. I'm sure there will be some more on this, more fallout on this situation from the guy who got to keep his job and get an elevated title and is responsible for the mess.
Hashtag blessed.
Awesome. Well, that's not it. There are so many more, including a coach that has the decision himself as to whether or not he wants to come back or if he wants to test the waters elsewhere. So we'll continue to take a look at some of the biggest coaching moves. It was truly Black Monday throughout the NHL. We'll recap all of the firings and if Rick Tocchet's going to stay or go. That's on the way next here on Locked On NHL. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6, count them, 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. I'm looking over at my coffee table right now. There's a bag of honey roasted, no shells. Always have one on hand, whether it be watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, or just watching reruns of The Office. Anytime I need a snack, it's Wonderful Pistachios. So great, cracking and get snacking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Seth and JD going through the firings in the NHL because
New horizons. If you want to be optimistic.
It turns out there are a few different positions that are open.
Yes.
In addition to the Seattle Kraken. Some of these happened earlier in the season. Obviously, Jim Montgomery was fired. There's another situation of a GM that is like, it's clearly the coach's fault.
Clearly.
Boston has an opening. Jim Montgomery fired, went to St. Louis. They're in the playoffs. They're down 0-2 to the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe St. Louis will fire him and go to somebody else. Cam Fowler, player coach. Thoughts? Maybe? I don't know.
82-0, baby.
Yeah, run the table. Not only that, but Chicago, Luke Richardson out. Some interesting rumors. Interesting rumors in Chicago, which we'll talk about. The Philadelphia Flyers kicked John Tortorella to the door.
He also was
he kicked himself,
helping himself to the door at that point too.
He kicked his own hind end out the door. And then the Flyers finished the job. Greg Cronin out as head coach of the Anaheim Ducks. Peter Laviolette out as head coach of the New York Rangers. Felt like that one, you could see that one coming a mile away.
Yep.
The one that's interesting, JD, is Vancouver, because Rick Tocchet is not technically fired. He has an option at the end of his contract. The Canucks have said that they're not going to pick it up. So ultimately, it's his decision if he wants to test the market or come back to Vancouver. It's the ball's in his court as to which route he wants to go.
That seems weird, right?
It does. And especially
why can't you be normal, Vancouver? Just shaking that. Just be normal.
Take out the batteries.
Just be a normal franchise.
Especially with all the stuff that went down, which, by the way, it was so interesting to hear Tocchet talk about the Pettersson Miller stuff. He's like, yeah, it got uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, okay. So it did definitely go down the way we thought it did.
Or the GM's talking about how Quinn Hughes wants to go play with his brother. Yeah, that whole situation too. And so we either have to trade for him or he has to go to New Jersey. So they literal captain of your team and franchise player. Be normal, Vancouver.
It's like, hey, dude, Jimmy, my boy, the Hughes brothers are not coming to Vancouver.
No,
like, sorry. So you better be okay with Dawson Mercer and
you're getting Simon Nemec and that's it, and you'll be happy.
Something. So we're going to talk about the most desirable spot, but let's just talk about Tocchet in particular. Feels like, he peaked with the Vancouver roster that he has. Yep. They've got good pieces on the roster, but also a ton of dysfunction.
Yes.
So it feels like,
I mean, it doesn't help that your superstar player that you paid $11.5 million for decided, yeah, guys,
absolutely cratered.
Just cratered. Doesn't help. As someone who also watched their franchise pay $11.5 million to a player, and then he decided that he was never going to be healthy again until 4 years later. It's very hard when your highest paid player isn't your best player or anywhere close to being your best player. But yeah, this franchise is it just wouldn't be the Canucks unless there was something happening behind the scenes, right?
Naturally. So does it make it makes, I think, the most sense for Tocchet to explore, mainly 100%. Because you never get these opportunities,
because it's your safety school.
Yeah,
right. You go out, you try to find somewhere better, And if not, it's your safety school. I got in here. If things don't work out other places, I'm fine. I know the way around. I know where the bathroom is. I don't need to pack up my stuff and move. Yeah, it's 100% your safety school. But like, it's weird that just the thought of I'd rather go to the calming waters of the Philadelphia Flyers media than have to deal with the ridiculousness that is the Vancouver Canucks, right? Because that feels like the natural spot for him is the Flyers.
Yeah, it feels, and honestly, that's honestly probably a good matchup too, because he's a Tocchet is a no nonsense kind of a guy, but not to the extent that Tortorella was.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my best player and bench him because he didn't get back on a type of thing or something like that. You saw Quinn Hughes did mask a lot of the issues that the Canucks had this season, especially when he was healthy-ish and on the ice and stuff, like just how good Quinn Hughes is. But this roster is just such a mess, man. Yeah. And again, there's good pieces, but Brock Besser's basically said, I'm out, bro. I'm not there's no way I'm re-signing at this point. And you got Pettersson, you have 1,000 Petterssons, and then you have Quinn Hughes, and what else? Thatcher Demko's not the same dude, and
Brock Besser is doing his exit interview wearing one of these.
It's just
pretty much
the Brock Besser Sharks is going to be Michael Celebrini slinging passes to Besser is going to be super fun.
So. How dare you? Go get Sidney Crosby if you want somebody prominent. We
already have one at home.
The Wild finally have money to spend. You are not going to steal this out from under us.
I already have a Sidney Crosby at home, and he's 18. So
must be nice.
It is very nice. Highly recommend it.
I was just trying to look too. I have not seen. I was trying to find the last time that a coach in the NHL went to free agency, and
came back. Yeah,
all the articles that I found were just from the coaches that were let go this year. So thanks a lot, AI. But what that tells you is it's incredibly rare, and so for Rick Tocchet, it would be foolish to not explore and see what's out there, because as we'll lay out in the final segment of the show today. There are some appealing options out there.
There are much more appealing options out there. Yes.
There's also the Seattle Kraken.
And one other team.
Yeah. We'll take a look at the most and least desirable coaching destinations as we finish off today's episode of Locked On NHL after this.
The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel, you place your first $5 bet. You'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Of course, I love watching Steph Curry play basketball because watching Steph Curry play basketball, it's a very special thing. So if you think maybe the Warriors and Steph Curry and playoff Jimmy, if they can repeat their success against the Houston Rockets, that's something I think is very interesting. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
Final segment of today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we are your team each and every day. We are your first listen each and every day as well. We're going to finish by taking a look at the most and least desirable destinations for coaches that have been let go, coaches that are trying to get themselves into the mix.
Are we in the mix officially?
I mean, I am. I'm updating my resume. I don't know about you.
We're in the mix.
Names such as David Carl, potentially, who has I saw on X that he is quote unquote the front runner for the Chicago job. And I'm like, yeah, he may be the front runner now, but this is also the same organization that said that they are a top destination for Kirill Kaprizov if he gets to free agency. I'm like, he's probably tops on your list, but is the feeling mutual?
It could be.
Time will tell. All right, JD, let's why don't you go
start
first?
At the bottom?
Yeah.
Are we starting at the bottom and working our way up?
Yep. We're going from would not touch with a 10-foot pole to
just
I will
as a
sign
reminder.
tomorrow.
So the teams, right? You have the list, right? The teams are
yes. We've got Boston, Chicago, Philly, Anaheim, New York Rangers, Seattle, and Vancouver.
Okay. The Boston Bruins, to me, are the worst destination to go to because they're going, you know exactly what's going to happen. I've seen this before with my own two eyes, an organization that I cover. They're going to, I still believe in this core. I believe that there's the bones of a good team here. This team is ready to should tear things down. That's what a smart ownership and organization would do is we need to tear things down and think about our long-term growth. This franchise, the roster's old, it's ugly, they have no prospects. Yes, they'll have a top, probably 5 pick in this year's draft. That's gonna be their best prospect they've had in
ever,
probably. And are we sure, or do we trust in the draft very well anyway? Like, I would not, because the expectations are high. The expectations are still going to be high with the Bruins, and you just don't have the things to deliver. So that is my worst. Like, I would thanks, but no thanks.
Oh, yeah. I just looked at the roster.
It stinks. You got pasta. Pasta's great. I love pasta. Who doesn't love a big bowl of pasta? Other than that, man. It's grim.
It's a grim picture.
But I believe in the bone. You can hear it, right?
Yeah.
You can hear that same speech. I've heard that same speech coming out of my GM's mouth.
We don't need a tear down. We need a tweak.
Yep. Just a tweak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's no. That's a bad Sorry, I just watched that this weekend. I don't know why that line keeps popping into my head, but so Boston is last. I can assume then that Seattle is second to last.
Yeah, that's who I would have next. I mean, we talked a lot about it first. Just the direction of the team. I still think there's some pieces that you can work with between Wright and Beniers and stuff. And they've got some interesting prospects as well. But I think there's what the GM want or what the president now wants and what you can deliver. That's what worries me. So,
yep, I agree. Seattle has got to find the take the lead go-to player. I don't think Matty Beniers is that. I don't know if Shane Wright is that, but I will say if those guys aren't A-level players, they're probably B players.
Yeah, if those guys your second and third best players, you can feel probably that. Yeah, you can work with that. But no, they definitely need it.
You need to find that bona fide A. And to be fair, a lot of teams are looking for that. So it's not like it's just Seattle, but that is.
Hey, you don't have a bona fide superstar? What's wrong with you?
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's got an A player. So Seattle's second to last. As far as the others go, I mean, it's probably. Do you go Philly next?
No, I think Philly's higher up because I think they have pieces. So because I'm looking at expectations Rangers. With what you kind of realistic, right? Yeah. And so I think there's a runway with Philly. That's
I like
Is
that.
it the Rangers?
Probably. That
Rangers,
roster is so old, and they don't care about playing defense at all.
Defense is for nerds. It does help you have one of the best goalies in the world. That does help. Ownership, not great.
Very not good.
Not good ownership. It's a toss-up, I think, between the Rangers and the Canucks here, because both are kind of similar, right?
Yeah.
Where you have a lot of media expectations. I guess it just comes down to which roster you like better. For me, and I kind of would lean towards the Rangers roster.
Well, here's the thing is, if it's a one-off for Elias Pettersson, that probably moves Vancouver up a spot. But if this is who Elias Pettersson is now, it's bad. Infinitely worse. So I would say let's go Seattle or Boston, Seattle,
Vancouver,
New York Rangers. Then
because you could still win with this Rangers team. They have some cap space this summer. This is a team that couple tweaks here, you install a better defensive system. You hope Shesterkin, would you be surprised if the Rangers made the playoffs next year?
No.
You wouldn't be. No. So, yeah, I think I would put the Rangers long term. No, but if you're trying to win right now, if you're a veteran coach, I'm trying to win right now, the Rangers would probably be the more appealing. So
if you're a new coach signing a 3-year deal to coach one of these teams, and you're trying to maximize that 3-year window, I feel like the Rangers. I feel like that's a fine spot compared to Vancouver. But then the others that are left are Anaheim, Philly, and Chicago.
I'd probably go Philly third.
Yep.
You do, because you feel like you have something in Michkov, right?
Yeah.
The Philly media a little weird, as I'm wearing my gritty shirt. You do have gritty in your life. That's both a plus and a minus. The rosters, it's got plenty of, I think a good mix of young players and older players. They have no goalie. That's the problem. You have to, every Flyers team ever, you have to find a goalie. But I think long term, you can kind of they have some prospects and stuff, and you can see the road ahead for the Flyers. So
yeah, it's just for the Flyers right now, you just have to start stacking quality drafts together.
Yeah.
Michkov is, if not a bona fide A, he is a very, very high B plus to A- type player.
I do
now
Bonk. They drafted a couple years ago.
You just have to start putting stuff around him. Is all.
Yeah, I like Bonk, who's probably going to spend a year in the AHL, but then I think he's going to be a really quality defenseman. They have pieces. They have pieces to work with. Here. So, and then I guess it comes down to the Ducks and the Blackhawks. So, is it weird? I think the Ducks is the most desirable out of.
The Ducks finally took a step forward.
Did something.
They finally took a step forward after so many years where it's hey, hot start, but then you go 8-40 in the final 48 games of the season, and you're oh, turns out we're right back where we started.
Because you have a young roster, right? You have pieces. You have Leo Carlson, who I really like. You have McTavish, Cutter Gauthier, all these guys are 22 or under. Trevor Zegras, who knows what's up with him? You have a goalie in Dostal. You have some pieces on the defense, and you have $40 million of cap space this offseason, and a GM who says, I want to make the playoffs next year. You have to deal with a little bit. You also get to live in Southern California, which is nice. You can't go wrong with that. I know the Blackhawks, you have Bedard, but just the vibes in Chicago just seems so bad right now. But you do have a ton of pieces coming, right? You have a lot of defensive pieces. It feels like they might have found something with Spencer Knight and that they got in a trade from the Florida Panthers. And they also have a ton of cap space as well. I feel like Anaheim, they've been very slow and meticulous with it, and I think they're ready to go now.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the most desirable. And yes, maybe you're not winning more games than the Rangers, and maybe they're a playoff team, maybe not, but like 2 or 3 years from now, this Ducks team is going to be very, very good. And so I think that's the most desirable if it was me. So.
And if you become
I feel
that
gross.
coach,
I need to take a shower now.
if you become that coach to guide them to the playoffs for the first time in forever, you buy yourself a lot of equity.
Yes, 100%.
A ton of equity. Like we're talking like a brand new like 5-year contract when you get them to the postseason. Like, very nice.
Yeah.
But I think the thing too with Chicago, just to kind of wrap up, is there's all that stuff that came out at the end of the year about how bad they played and how they kind of checked out. Don't like that.
Don't like that. They do a really fun roster though.
Well,
like Bedard, Nazar, like Vlasic's good, Levchinov, Krasinski. I like Krasinski. I know Krasinski's had a little bit of a rough development so far, but like they do have a lot of pieces, and you're gonna have another top pick in this draft. I just think, but like it's still a longer road. Like it's like for them, it's still like a longer road. And you're the hope with Chicago is that you go from picking second to picking like 8th or 9th next year, and then can you start to make a playoff push after that? So, but yeah, I think the Ducks, because you're right on that verge of this team starting to kind of enter its competitive window. So, yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments which job you think is the most desirable. If you think it's the Kraken, if you think it's the Ducks, the Canucks, the whatever, just let us know in the comments.
Jobs.
I mean, hey, good gig if you can get it, but we're not going anywhere. That's our show for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in as you do each and every day of the week. Again, we are your team each and every day and your first listen each and every day. So make sure to subscribe on your favorite audio platforms and on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the course of the week. We got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.